which means that we are not focusing on the third person again. The third person analyzes the actions of the other person if they comply with the law. We are putting ourselves in the perspective of the. So we are not interested in what this guy does, but in who this guy is. This is about virtues. Of course, the way he is shown in his actions. But what is important is who he is and how he is. No? So, again, it's not about what you do, it's about what you like. It's about what you like. And Abba, which is he died like two or 3 years ago, is a Salesian priest, philosopher of ethics, and he wrote wonderful books. Not easy books, but wonderful books. And he says that virtues are not about actions, are about feelings. So it's not what you do, it's what you like. So you have a virtue, you can do very many things a thing, and maybe you don't have a virtue. We will go back to this idea. You only have a virtue when you enjoy living like that. Okay. So you are perfecting the person. You are making the dress, not consuming the bread. Okay. So, so we have this idea of these two concepts of morals, not these two ways of understanding morals. One based on obligation, the study, research, etc., about the law that you have to fulfill, the obligation that you have to live, and the vision of St. Thomas, etc., the classic vision of the person or the morals as the reflection, research, etc., of the life that is worth living. Okay, what is the life that fulfills, no? Human existence, etc. So, and to form is to build this dress. No? It's not, so formation is not about knowing, it's about being. Okay, sometimes we say, no, this guy has a very good formation because he went to a parish school and you ask him about the sacraments and he knows everything. He has very good formation, but he doesn't live up to it. Then I would say he has very good information. But formation is, so in Spanish, an idea of St. Augustine can be expressed saying, formar es dar forma. So to form is to give shape, not color. It doesn't have to be with how he appears, but how he is. How he is. And this is what we, in every task of formation, in every job of formation, on ourselves in the first place, but also on the others, we have to focus on how this person, me or the other, is, not on what he does. Of course, we are interested in what he does because he shows how he is in what he does, but not always this connects very well. No? Okay. This is important for so because okay, again, we usually, if I ask what is a virtue, all of you will say it's a good operative habit, no? And this is correct, but it's insufficient because you miss many very important aspects of virtues. For instance, because it seems to transmit the idea of repetition and automatism, and this is not true. So you can do millions of times an action, but if you don't like doing that action, you are not virtuous. So virtuous is about tastes, it's about feelings, it's about what you like. Okay. For instance, on this I recommend, I recommend an article of mine that was published in Chronica in 2 editorials. It's translated in English in the web page of Opus Dei. You can find it. So the original title, it's commenting, it's a series of articles that commented on the first letter of the Father in 17. No? We made a plan in 2018, they were published, and mine came very long and was divided into chronicas, February and March 2018, but it's published. So originally the title was Formación integral y afectividad. Formación integral y afectividad. In English they translated to reaching the entire person, the role of emotions. So you find it in and it explains, I try to explain well what I am going to summarize very shortly here about virtues. Okay. I said, you only have a virtue when you enjoy being good. If you don't enjoy, maybe you are doing a good action, but you still have some way to go to reach the virtue. This doesn't mean that that this doesn't take effort. So you are virtuous when the good actions don't take effort. No, this is not true. But when you like them, you are virtuous when you like them, even if they require an effort. For instance, heroic minute. Okay, I have been in the work for 48 years already, and after so many years living the heroic minute, I like to do it. But that doesn't mean that when the alarm goes off, I say, wow, fantastic. No, you always feel, but but I like getting up in that moment. If one day, if for instance tomorrow, I will remain 2-3 more minutes in bed, I will be very displeased with myself. I don't like being like this. Even if it takes less effort, the other takes, in the end, it takes more effort, no? Because you just delay the same thing, no? And you extend the difficulty, no? But okay, I like to be like this. I don't like to be the same. You go to the supermarket or you go to a shop and you look right and left and nobody's looking at you, and then you steal something that you would like to have. You don't do this. Why? Because it's forbidden. Of course it's forbidden, but not because it's forbidden. That's because I don't like being like that. Because I am disgusted with myself if I do this. So I don't like. I would like to have this thing, but not in this way. If I cannot have it in another way, I don't want it. So I love justice. I love them. So you, even if it's, okay, there are things that take a lot of effort, but are virtuous because you like being like that. It doesn't mean that you enjoy very much doing difficult things, but you enjoy being like that. If you have to take care of your mother who is sick, sometimes you get, no, okay, okay, but if you don't do it, but you like having done it. If you don't do it, you are not happy with yourself. You don't like being like that. This is virtuous. But so because virtues create harmony, connaturalize, I don't know if in English this word exists, connaturalizes you, your feelings, your affections, with what you are looking for in your actions. Because this is a characteristic of the will that the reason doesn't have. So you can reason, you can think of a lie, a perfect fraud, You can even make a movie or write a novel about a perfect fraud, and you are very honest. But you cannot want a lie without becoming a liar in that very moment. So the will changes you, not only changes things outside. If I take this and steal it, I am changing circumstances in the world. Now it is under my power and not under the power of everybody here. But I am also changing myself because I have become a thief in that precise moment. I change myself. So the free actions change us, not only change circumstances around us. Okay, then we change our changes is I have become a liar, but I have done the first step to end up liking this kind of action. Okay, because we tend to like little by little, step by step, to like the reasons behind our choices. And that's why we form virtues by repeating actions. It's not a mechanical thing, but we make the effort to wake up and to get up in time, and then little by little we end up liking this kind of behavior and disliking the opposite. Okay? At the beginning, not little by little, it creates harmony, and the time arrives in which you enjoy being good, being just, being diligent, being sincere. You enjoy, even if it takes effort. This is clear, no? By the way, if there are questions, you can interrupt me, or at the end I will try to give some space for questions. Okay, which then another important thing is that the repetition of actions doesn't work by itself, because what forms you is not what you do. It's what you want. An example. What's Sede Sapientia? You know what Sede Sapientia is? Okay? It's a seminary. It's not a student residence. No? So there is Mass and prayer in the morning, and also half an hour of prayer. And before even Lauds, 15 minutes, then half an hour prayer, then Mass, and you are supposed to be there. This is not a student residence, this is a seminary. And okay, and I used to tell the seminarians, I want you to be there. And you know, and you are there. But I want more. What I really want is that you are there because you want. Not because of other reason. Because if you are there for other reason, it's useless. Okay, I don't know if it's useless. Imagine 2 seminarians. 365 days in the year, they arrive punctually to prayer. So they have the virtue. No, maybe one has and the other doesn't have. And one is forming the virtue and the other is not forming. Because the first one so it's difficult for him, but he has understood that the prayer will play an important life in his future priestly life, and he sees the example of the priests there, etc., and other seminarians, and he wants to learn, and he wants to make the effort. This guy is forming the virtue, and he will end up, and he will get out of the seminary at the end, and prayer for him will be important. The second just comes because he is afraid of his formator telling him something. So the priest in charge of his formation calls him, I don't see you in the morning. There, what happens? But he doesn't want this. So he comes just for this. He's not forming any virtue. He is not forming any virtue. It's perfectly useless. The day he goes out of the seminary, prayer slips away, or slides, or whatever he said, and that's it. Nothing remains. Because you are configuring yourself, not with the things you do, but with what you want when you do those things. The first one wants to learn to pray, and he's configuring himself with that, and he ends up liking this. The second one that wants to avoid reprimands, and he's forming himself to pass to find the holes of the system, no? To be able to do what he wants without having problems. But not, so you understand, no? So a person who does the right thing, but not for the right reason, is not at all, is not forming any virtue. It's useless. Maybe it's not useless, maybe it's the first step. Okay, at least before he didn't come, now he comes. No, now he comes to avoid okay, but this doesn't, even if he comes every day, it doesn't end. It doesn't end here. We have to go ahead. We have to make him come because he wants to come, for the good reasons. Otherwise, you are forming nothing. Nothing. Okay. Then, what forms myself are virtues. But virtues are repetition of actions, good actions for the good reasons, which means that I am forming by my freedom. I am formed by my decisions. By my decisions. If somebody decides for me, and I don't make it my own, I am not formed at all. So the decisions of the Pope don't form me. The decisions of the Father don't form me. The decisions of the Commission, of the local council, what forms me is my decisions. Of course, the decisions of the Pope, the Father, the General are very important, but they form me only if I make them my own. Only if I make them my own. Otherwise, they are not forming me. What forms me is my decisions, my free decisions. That's why formation requires freedom. I said before that freedom requires formation, because you can only be good when you do what you like, if you like good. Okay? But now the opposite. Formation requires freedom, because you can only be formed with your free actions. No? And this is very important, as we will see tomorrow. Okay. Then, okay, fidelity. The consequence of this William Focken's approach is that freedom of God is opposed to my freedom. No? Is that, for instance, fidelity is seen very often as opposed to freedom. So fidelity and freedom are like two armies fighting for some battlefield. No? If freedom goes ahead, fidelity occupies less space. And if I am more faithful, then I have to renounce my freedom. This is completely false. Because okay, you are faithful because you love, because you like being like that. When you form yourself, you are acquiring virtues. And when you have virtues, you enjoy your life. Because virtues is about tastes, and you enjoy doing good things. This is the difference between the voluntaristic concept of virtue and the Thomistic concept of virtue. Voluntaristic concept of virtue, I will describe it like this. And I think that you all will agree that this is how 99% of the people think in this world. So, a virtue, for this voluntaristic approach, a virtue is a kind of supplement of strength in the will that allows me to fulfill the moral norm even when it is contrary, it's opposite to my inclinations. So, meaning that I have the inclination to this, but I know that moral norm forbids it, and I have the strength to repress myself and not do it. Then I am virtuous, because I can stop myself, or I can force myself to do something that I am reluctant to do, but I can force myself to do what the law, the moral norm requires. This is the voluntaristic concept. So virtue is just a supplement of strength of the will. But if this were so, then means that the moral ideal is indifference. So because I am just consistently putting aside my feelings, putting aside my affectivity, and not considering it just to be able to fulfill the law. Just so affectivity, feelings, impressions away, because they disturb me. Plato said contemplation is the most important thing, the most valuable thing. And then that means that for a real philosopher, what is more desirable in this world is death. Is death. Because what is the obstacle for contemplation? For reason to contemplate? Passions. And this is true because we understand that the student that arrives to the exam and remains blank because it's nervous. When you are passionate about something, you are afraid, you are nervous, etc. You don't think well. You don't take good decisions when you are excited, or important decisions when you are excited. All of us know. But he says, so as the passions is the obstacle, and the passions are related to the body, death, body, no passions, reason free to contemplate. But Aristotle says, no. It's true that passions can be the biggest obstacle for reason to contemplate. But if we form well them, if we form them well, the passions, they can be the best support of reason. That's virtuous. Okay, when you the virtuous is not to put aside, it's not an integral formation, reaching the entire person, the role of emotions. You don't reach the entire person. You don't form integrally a person without including the emotions. And the formation of the emotions is virtuous. So virtue is not the ability to go against the current of your feelings. It's just the formation of the current. It's not that I am able to swim against the current, but it's to change the current. And then, in the end, when you do that, which is difficult, but it's beautiful, when you do that, you enjoy your life. So the person with virtues is not the person that closes his eyes and he does what is told in the norms, etc. No, it's the opposite. That's his reality. So formation, virtuous is like cleaning the glasses, no? And you see reality. And then you enjoy, and you feel perfectly free because you are doing all the time what you like. This is understandable. You are doing all the time what you like. So you feel perfectly free, you enjoy your life, and that's virtuous.
There are many books that talk of holy indifference, especially the Jesuit.
Yeah, because for St. Ignatius this is very, but I think this is already the 16th century, and William Fockham is I think he's very much influenced. They talk very much about indifference and also about discernment being about different options and not being inclined to, but I think this is absolutely voluntaristic. Because indifference, is reaching the point in which everything is the same for me. But no, not everything is the same for me. So virtue is when you like being available, not because I don't get interested in anything, but because I have a superior reason, and I want to serve, and I want to love God, etc. And then even if I prefer this to this, I am inclined to this, I am ready to do this, if for this reason is better. So this is not indifference. You are alive. Our Father is all the opposite. No, he's very alive. No, I understand what Saint Ignatius says about this. I understand that he is defending this. So a good idea, but not indifference. I don't think indifference is a valid moral goal. No? You have to form the current, not to be. So the current doesn't affect me. No. It affects me and it pushes me it helps me. This is Aristotle, no? It's the best support for me to do because I like being just, because I like being diligent, and I like being charitable, etc. Okay. I skip some parts because, just an idea. fidelity, I was talking about fidelity. It's not fighting with freedom. Fidelity is shaping your freedom, and freedom is shaping your fidelity. Fidelity expresses itself in all your actions, in what you think, in what you like, in what you say, in what you do. It expresses there, it's present there, no? Etc. Freedom, and you are only faithful when you are free. Okay, this is for that reason, and I can support this affirmation with some words of our Father, but I don't have them here now. That fidelity is very different from perseverance. Okay? If you don't persevere, you are not faithful. But you can persevere and not being faithful. So I think, this is my opinion, I think that he is not faithful who perseveres just because he doesn't know what else to do. He's not faithful. He's not faithful who perseveres because he's afraid of the consequences of not persevering. He's not faithful who perseveres because he is afraid of thinking of the great things in life because he's afraid of them becoming attractive to him. No, for this guy, perseverance, fidelity is just a formality, but he's not enjoying his fidelity. He's only faithful he who perceives the tremendous greatness of his fidelity. So the one that enjoys living like that, the one that enjoys giving himself, this is the only fidelity that is real. No? And this guy enjoys, and the other is just repressing himself. No? He's repressing himself because when you use the voluntaristic concept of virtue, you are just repressing. So you have a virtue if you are able to repress yourself or to force yourself to do something. But no, this is not St. Thomas. St. Thomas is when you enjoy being good. It's not about what you do. It's about what you feel. It's about what you like. What you like. Okay. This is longer to form. Yes?
Can you say that the brother of the prodigal son was voluntarist?
Yeah, probably. Probably we could see.
Out of obligation?
No. So to live out of obligations is good, but it's not the final reason. No? There is something else. No? That you understand the meaning of your obligations. But if you live just out of pure obligation and you don't like it, this is the voluntaristic approach. Yeah, we could see. Yes.
There have been occasions where we have people who are encouraged.
Sorry.
They're encouraged to struggle, and they're even something that our Father seems to have said, that he has been going against the grain for many years.
Yeah.
That is an expression that is used.
Yeah.
So how do you put that together with it?
Okay. And you have gone against the grain, I think, many times. And I have. But this can mean two things. One, the difficulties that you find, but you have very good reasons to do them, and you enjoy going against the grain in the sense that the difficulties are. But when the difficulties are yours, you have to change that current. No? And then in the end, for instance, if you have in the life of our Father many oppositions and many difficulties, you have to force yourself to doing something, but you enjoy doing that. And if not, the end of this process is that you end up enjoying doing things for God, even if it's difficult. You don't want them to be difficult. You don't want to go against the grain. But if it's needed, you like it. And you enjoy it. And our Father is telling this, I have gone against the grain many times, but he talks about his life as the happiest person in this world. He doesn't regret having gone against the grain. No? So this means that virtue is to like the good action, but not necessarily that it doesn't take effort. It takes effort. But you are happy to do that effort, to make that effort. Yes?
You mentioned a while ago about the voluntarism being a kind of inflammation of the will. But at the same time, we notice that desire for the good also of the will is something that has to be addressed, because sometimes there are people who are intelligent and they think but somehow their will is a little, let me say, directed not to the right thing, not to the good, but to something that is more immediate, pleasurable or whatever. So it seems like it's not so much voluntarism, but the right ordering of the will, and which involves therefore a kind of goodwill and real attachment to the truth, to the good, purification of the.
Okay, let me see if I understood. But many people tell me, no, but if you talk too much about voluntarism, which is good, okay, which is good to talk about, you will be forming people with very weak will. But this is not true, because voluntarism, again, is not a problem of the will, it's a problem of reason. Because otherwise, you see the effects of voluntarism, the guy that gets very tired, discouraged, etc., etc. No? And then you have two options. No? Some people say, no, you tell them, no, just relax. No? You take things very seriously. Okay, this can be true, but this resolves nothing. But you relax. But I have to fulfill my obligations at work. I have to do the norms. I find time to go with my friends. I have to rest and do sports, and then I have to relax. So you are adding me problems instead of, okay, you don't, because the problem is not there. So again, the problem is not in the will. No, it's not that you want too much doing good things, because it's impossible to want too much doing good things. So there is not a level beyond what is bad to love good. No, this doesn't exist. The problem is reason. No, that you are not using reason to take your decision. You are not placing yourself in the situation and take your decisions according to this. No, and you are forcing yourself to do things that the other answer is just trust the will, the grace of God. Yeah, of course, this is always good. No, so you have to rely more on the will of God. This is valid always. But this doesn't resolve the problem. This doesn't resolve the problem. But what does this mean? Because the grace of God doesn't replace me. Okay, I always put this example, sorry. If I have to push this heavy, it's not heavy, but imagine that it's heavy, and I ask God for help, and God helps me, God doesn't help putting a third hand here and making it easier for me. No. It's much more beautiful than this. God pushes with these hands, with these two hands, not with a third hand, with these two hands. When I ask God for help, God helps me to change, but doesn't make the things easier. He doesn't replace me. He is inside. He puts himself inside me. So, again, so spending a lot of time in this, but sometimes we think of grace as a bank account, and this is not good. So we do good things, and when we do good things, God puts money in the bank account, and then we can spend it to ask for vocations, to ask for apostolic things, to ask for the health of my parents or whatever. No, but this is not like this. Okay, grace is just so St. Thomas says we talked of grace in three senses. So the first is that we say thanks. No? We give thanks. We say grazie. No? In Italian, gracias in Spanish. But this is the first meaning of grace. But you say, thank you, grace, no, whatever, because you have received a grace. because somebody has done something that he was not obliged to do, and you are grateful. No? Okay, this is the second. You received a grace. So I'm playing with the words in Latin, Italian, Spanish. In English, doesn't work so well. No, but you understand. No? You say grace because you received a grace. But if you received a grace, it's because you are pleasing too. No? Because tú eres grato. So tú eres grato. He likes you. And then he makes you a grace. And then you say grace. So which means that the three meanings, the most important thing is the first. This is the grace of God is that you are pleasing to God. And this, what does that change? Change everything. Because you are pleasing to God in the supernatural sense because God sees Jesus Christ in you. And then this changes everything. Imagine a mother that has organized a birthday party for his little child, no? And so many friends come to the house, and they are playing in a room, and they make a mess, no? And then she says, hey, merienda, merienda. No, all of them go fast to merienda, and they leave that place as a mess, no? And she finds that one of the friends remains behind, and is putting things in order and cleaning some things. And she says, wow, this guy is very, she likes it. She likes the guy, no? But imagine that guy is her son. He likes it very much, much more, no? The action is the same, but she likes it more because it's her son. This is grace. So it's an example, very limited, no? This is grace. You are doing the same things, but God likes you more. So these things has a supernatural value because He is seeing His Son in you. This is grace. This is grace. But grace doesn't make things easier. It makes things easier in the sense that it's a good strength for motivation. It motivates you a lot to see that you are pleasing God, etc., and that is the love of your life, etc. But so grace doesn't replace you, so this doesn't resolve the problem, no? Even if it is useful. So the thing is reasons. You have to form the reason because you act on reasons, not on laws. So laws are very important, norms, criteria, etc. But you understand the reason, and then you can apply it to different circumstances. Okay? Is that the... Yeah? Okay.
Father, thank you.
Yes.
Just what you mentioned about virtuous as enjoying the difficult good that we are doing. Because
Difficult or not difficult?
because my imagination of, let's say, enjoy is, let's say, there's an emotional complement, say. When I listen to rock music, I enjoy listening to that rock music. But if I do something good and then I don't feel the same complement of emotional upbeat as when I listen to rock music, does that mean that I'm not virtuous?
No, not necessarily, in the sense that the emotion is very different. But for me, I enjoy listening to this kind of music, okay? And this can be much more intense, or that the joy I have when I wake up in the morning, or when I do a favor to a friend, etc. This is more intense, but the thing that I like more is that I prefer that emotion that is sensibly less intense, but is much stronger. So it gives me more joy to make a good action than to listen to music, to the music I like. Even if listening to the music I feel more, but I prefer the other. No? For instance, if you have a temptation on purity, for instance, this physical is more attractive. You feel, but if you have the virtue, you don't like it, even if it's pleasant, but you don't like it. You prefer this, and this thing is more serene, more delicate, I will say at the end of tomorrow, the last thing I will say has to do with this. That we have to form people that develop delicateness, because if they react only to strong emotions, movies, readings, etc., it's very difficult to pray. It's very difficult to help others. It's very difficult to live purity. Tomorrow I will say this. So it's a less intense emotion, but in reality it's stronger. That it moves you much more than the other. I will not make any sacrifice for listening this kind of music, even if it's enjoyable. But I will make any sacrifice to live certain things that are difficult to do. Okay, wow.
In the way there's a point there where the Father says, unless you like something, the way a hedonist likes his pleasure, the way a miser likes his money,
Yeah.
Then you are not really.
Yeah, but this is related to what he said before about the indifference. It's not indifference, no. It's to put, yeah. Yeah, but to I think as an adult loves his. Okay, but I think it's much more than that. So I feel less, but I prefer more to do some good action than to listen to the music. Even if I like very much to listen to this music, but this is much more how you like good. So the intensity of the experience not necessarily are the same. But okay, but I think I understand what you say. Okay, then. Okay, I jump over some things. Well, really, at what time in this sense? I know, then I have skipped some things, but I just questions, if you have questions. And tomorrow we go with the second part. Yes.
I've encountered some parents give the specifying many of them Chinese dads, fathers. They say that I have to discipline my children. I have to make them do things in order to build habits in them, good habits. They're young. I don't expect them to understand everything, to know exactly why they are doing what I'm telling them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Two ideas. Those things are formative only if they do them because they want to do them. If they just repress them to obey, they are not forming. On the contrary, probably when they get away from their parent, this is the first idea. So what you are forming is not the things that people do, but their likings. And if they really want to do this because they trust their father, they develop really a virtue, a liking for this kind of behavior. But if they hate this kind of thing and they just do it to avoid problems, they are not forming. The second idea is that behind that there is a famous problem that already Aristotle pointed out in the formation of prudence. That this is one of the things I skipped, but anyway, virtues have two dimensions: the intentional dimension and the elective dimension. So this is that virtues allow you to desire the good ends and to put in practice the means that make you reach the end. Okay, but in the middle there is a reflection. is reasoning that starts from the ends and goes to the means. Every practical reasoning is from ends to means. Okay, this is what prudence perfects. But the problem is that while you don't have the virtue yet, prudence, you don't have the intentional dimension of virtue. So the firm desire of living according to temperance, justice, etc. And so your reasoning starts not from a stable point, a right point, no? And then not necessarily arrives to the good conclusions. So you are not forming virtues. So how can you? So we create a circle because this elective dimension depends on prudence, but prudence depends on his first principles, which is the intentional dimension. Is this Chinese for you, or I can? Or, yes, sorry, but in 2 minutes. But okay, which means that we created a circle because I can fulfill the act that makes the virtuous act if I reason well. But I can reason well only if I have the right intention, stable. But this is what virtues give me, which is the thing that I am trying to form. So how I come into the circle, because this depends on this and this depends on this, no? And then, and the answer of Aristotle is the ethics of the polis, not the police, but la ética de la polis, which sounds very theoretical, but it's not. We can apply it to society and mainly to family. So the values that are important in your society, the advice of your parents, etc., replace the starting point, because when you are behaving according to the good values that society recognizes, when you are doing and you have the perception that authority is benevolent. So authority not always is benevolent in practice, but the authority that is not benevolent has lost his means, his sense of authority. Okay, so authority is by itself benevolent, no? And the mother is benevolent. So the child that don't understand why is good what his father is doing, but trust his father, is replacing the starting point. And he's acting freely. He's trying to do what is good for him. Not because he understands that this is good for him, but because my father understands, and I know that my father loves me. And then I want to please my father. So Martin Ronheimer then, developing this idea, says that the love for virtue starts from the love for the virtuous person. So justice starts, I'm becoming just when I love a just person that tells me what justice consists in. So if the guys trust their father and do their things, even if they take effort, with this wish of pleasing his father, they are forming virtues, because they are trusting. So you enter into the circle by trust. When you trust the authority, because you think that he loves you and he wants good for you. But if you just do things, not because they are good for you, but because I am commanded and I don't want a problem, you don't form any virtue. Sorry, it was a bit complicated, but...
So the Chinese father is right.
Is right, but not necessarily. It can be, but if he detects that his sons are just fulfilling what he says, to avoid problems, he has to know that he's not forming anything. That as soon as they get far from him, they will do a different thing. So you have to form the likings, the tastes, and not only the doings. Yes?
I just remember a professor who made a distinction between acostumbramiento and virtue.
Yeah.
Virtue, of course, is rational. So the end is there, very rational.
Yeah.
Acostumbramiento is like, muscle memory.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, that is a difference that we make in Spanish, formar o adiestrar. Adiestrar is to train, but to train can be used well, in different meaning in English. No, is to train a dog, for instance. You adiestras a dog, and the dog learns to jump here, to do that. But this is not formation. This is not formation. Is about reason. Formation, I anticipate it now. Formation is not about memory. I used to be in the seminary. Sometimes in the liturgical ceremonies, the seminarians made mistakes doing, and they thought that I got angry about the mistakes. No? But I said, no, you can make mistakes, I understand. But what I get angry with is that by that mistake I understand that you have not thought why you are doing that. You are just doing what you learn. And somebody told you, you do this, and then you do this, and you make mistakes because you are not considering the situation. You are not using reason. You are just using memory. But the reference point of formation is not memory. Memory is a good help. It helps you to remember a similar situation, but is reason. And then something unexpected happens, and you know how to react because you are situated. You are well. If you are receiving, you have just a list of action, and you are following. But this is not. This is more adiestrar, acostumbrar. Yeah, that's one of the limitations of the. What I said before is correct, but it's limited. The definition of virtues, as you acquire them by repetition of acts, is a good habit, operative habit. Okay, it's limited because you can't end up thinking of some custom, some automatism. So automatism is a thing that jumps over the choice. You don't need to choose. No, you don't need to choose. To choose. You don't need to choose. Because you are already used and you don't need to think. Virtue is not it. This virtue, in the definition of St. Thomas, is elective habit. These are the first, then it goes, it's longer, it's quite long. But it's an elective habit. It's a habit of choosing well. So it's the habit of exercising freedom well. It's not to avoid freedom to intervene in the action. It's to have the freedom so well formed that you choose well. Okay? If there are no more questions, we can finish. Okay? Okay, let's finish. Angelus Domini Incavit Maria. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Ecce ancilla Domini. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Et verbum caro factum est. Ave Maria, gratia plena Dominus tecum, benedicta tui mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui, Iesus. Ora pro nobis, Santa Dei Genetrix. Oremus, gratiam tuam quesumus Domine mentibus nostris infunde, ut qui angelo nuntiante Christi Filii tui incarnationem coniovimus, per passionem eius et crucem ad resurrectionis gloriam perducamur, per enda in Christum Dominum nostrum. Amen. Santa Maria, spes nostra, se sapientiam.